Hey, this is David with the Acme Kitchen Crate, showing off here the differences between the standard kit and the essentials package. So with the essentials kit, you're getting everything that you need as a core kitchen. So you have all of your bakeware, prep bowls, knives, cutting board, kitchen tools. We have enameled cast iron pieces, as well as stainless steel and porcelain bakeware. So it's really a good baseline of everything that you're going to need in a kitchen. I like to upgrade and have a little bit more pieces and more unique pieces, and that's really where the standard kit comes along. This is the stuff that I personally use on a day-to-day basis, and so if you've got a little extra budget and a little extra room, this is really where I'd say is where I'd like to be as the standard. So the biggest change is going to be going from made in to the Heston stainless. So they're both fantastic pieces. With the made in, these are actually both made in Italy. They're all tri-ply stainless steel. So they're really similar construction and performance wise. Heston is just, it's a little bit fancier as far as the finishing and the way that they, seal the rim and everything is just a little cleaner looking. The handle is kind of probably the biggest difference. Made in has actually kind of a more comfortable handle than the Heston. The Heston's a little flatter, but it does mean that it kind of locks into your hand a little bit better with the Heston than the made in. But they're both really quite similar, which is why I like using them both. They're both really comfortable. Everything is a brushed pan, so as far as maintenance and ease of cleaning and durability and all that kind of stuff, they're going to be identical for each piece. As far as the actual items in the kit, this is actually the only piece that's unique, and then I'm adding the 1.5 saucepan in the standard kit. Otherwise, all the other pieces in the stainless, there's basically a like-for-like replacement. So this is the 2-quart saucy and the 2-quart, for the Heston and the made in. And you can see they're really similar in shape as well, especially with these. It makes a big difference. Some of the other brands like DeMeyer that I have here, I really don't like the shape of the bowl. It's kind of too deep and you have to kind of reach in. Both the made in and the Heston have a much kind of wider rim. The Heston I think is actually a little wider even still than the made in, which I appreciate, but otherwise it's still very similar. Otherwise, size-wise, everything else is pretty similar. You have the 4-quart saucepans, you have the 10 and the 12 skillets, and then you have the rondout and the stock pot. The one other change with the stock pot is it does go from a 8-quart stock pot to a 12-quart. So I am upsizing you. I really like the 12-quart, and that's kind of my go-to for a stock pot. Since this essential kit, I kind of have it set for you might be in a smaller apartment or housing and things like that, or you just really don't cook for larger people. So that's why I downsize that to the 8. Otherwise, the 12-quart is really my go-to, and its size-wise is the same base as the Heston Rondell. So it's not really taking up that much more room, but you get the extra cooking area if you're doing stock and making broths and things like that. It's really nice to have that extra surface area and volume to be able to put all the parts in it. So I really like that. So that's kind of the big difference in the stainless part. And then getting into the carbon steel. So I really do love the Debuyer Mineral B Pro. These are a fantastic pan, carbon steel with a stainless steel handle, which makes it oven safe. This is basically kind of the handmade upgrade of it. So rather than being made in France, these are made in the US. Performance-wise, they're going to be almost identical. It's really more a matter of these are just kind of a heritage pan. These are handmade here in the US. They've got that hand-hammered finish. And so it's just a much more attractive, kind of an heirloom kind of, I would call it, piece. Otherwise, performance-wise, you're going to be really almost the same between the two. They're both going to be fully oven safe. I have similar sizes. I've got my little pan, so this is going to be your kind of egg pan in the morning, stuff like that, when you just got a small thing that you want to do. And then otherwise, I've got my larger skillet for your kind of big batch cooking and just general use. This is probably the pan that gets the most use in my kitchen. I really love my carbon steel. It's the best kind of all-around pan that gives you some kind of non-stick properties. You can use it as a non-stick pan if you're good at using it. And it builds more of a finish over time. You can see this one's quite, been gotten a lot of use, so it's got a lot of patina to it. But you still have great searing. It's still got good weight, but it's not as heavy as the cast iron pan. And, I just really love that kind of farmhouse handle and style. So it's a really gorgeous piece that I feel is kind of like an heirloom piece that you'll, pass down for generations, because this, you can't ruin them. Even if you get rust on it, you can always get it off, and this will be good forever. So I don't mind spending a little bit more on a more special carbon steel pan, since I know, it's going to last the time of time. The next big change is going to be on the Dutch oven and the enameled in general. So I'm switching over from, again, the made in to the Le Creuset. Again, they're both made in France. It's going to be very similar quality, but I'm also upsizing to a 7 1/4 as opposed to the 5 1/2 quart. So a little bit more generous size makes it so that you're doing like this one that's got fry oil in it right now, that you can have more oil. You're not going to drop temp as much. If you're cooking things, breads and stuff in it, you can do larger loaves. Because it's bigger, it's going to be a little heavier, but I think it's worth the trade-off. It's not that heavy for its size. And then being a Le Creuset, it's just kind of that little extra, again, a little more of a special piece for passing down. Performance-wise, you're going to be similar, but for a set for the high-end cook who really loves, the higher-end brands, I really love Le Creuset, and I think it's one of the best ones out there. I also include their nice little silicone grips to act as for heat pickup. And then we've got their brazier. So this is kind of a really unique piece. The brazier has a really wide bowl on it, and I originally have had and used their 9-quart oval and their larger 9-quart pots when I'm doing brisket and things like that. But they're very big, heavy pots, and I found I can fit that mostly in this brazier. This is the large 5-quart brazier. You could fit it in this guy. But now you're in a much smaller, easy to use piece. If you got to stick it in the fridge, it fits a lot better. So I've actually been finding a lot more uses for this. Again, this is the larger brazier as opposed to the smaller one, which I think it's worth having the extra size. Just gives you more room for larger cuts of meat. And then the last kind of big additions in the cookware side is going to be my DeMeyer Atlantis Pro Line 7-ply skillet, which I kind of talk about in my skillets video, that this is kind of my replacement for a cast iron skillet that just happens to be stainless, because it's heavy, almost like a cast iron skillet is, but you kind of get the benefits of a stainless cooking surface, which is a little bit more versatile. An amazing pan to cook on. It's just kind of a heavier pan. So there's still applications where I want to grab my Heston skillet because it is lighter, more nimble. I can toss things. This one, it's got some heft to it. So I do like it. I do use it. I find it to be a different piece than my Heston, which is why I include both in the kit for people who, again, want a little bit more variety and choice in the cooking, depending on what you're doing. If you need the extra searing ability, that's when I'm going to grab the DeMeyer. If not, then I'm going to use the Heston as far as the stainless. And then getting into the cast iron. So this is another smithy piece that's, again, hand forged here in the US with a polished interior. So if you're used to more cast iron skillets, they tend to have a pebbled texture on the inside, which has a little bit more grip to it. Also just kind of a gorgeous piece. And I really like their accessory here of the skillet lid. So this you can use as a skillet while then also being a lid for the cast iron itself. And I've got the nice little leather handle I include as well on these. Really good piece for cooking in the oven. If you're doing cornbreads, if you're baking, or if you want to take it out in the campfire, it's fantastic on open flame. So it's kind of a different application because I do still have the enameled for other kind of purposes. But if I'm doing baked things or things where I'm going really high heat, I have no concern of this piece ever getting scorched or burnt because you can always restore it perfectly to new, no problem. Another Le Creuset piece I didn't mention is I'm also including a 4-piece of their mini coquettes. These are kind of a fun little versatile piece. It comes with a cookbook in the set that gives you a lot of ideas for desserts, individual appetizers, things like that. These are a really fun little plating piece that I like. I'm showing 4 colors here. In the set, you're just gonna get 4 of one color, of whichever color you choose when you check out. And then getting into a couple other things. So bakeware, I really love using Silpats. These are actually a little slipperier than parchment, and they don't have the risk of burning as much. So if you're doing things with a broiler or higher heat, you have a lot more flexibility with these. They make these kind of special editions that actually have the cookie rounds marked on it. So it's really nice for laying out your batters and making things even. So I have one that's the cookie rounds, and one that's the grid. And so it's really nice to have those kind of two options depending on what you're doing. And then I also have one of the larger mats for the larger sheet pan, as well as two of the ones for the standard sheet pan. You just roll everything up and then put it's like one of those kind of like slap bracelets you used to have as a kid. You just kind of open it up flat, and then you can just slap it around the sill pat, and it'll just kind of hold it together for you. Also in the kind of baking roasting is this Heston roasting pan. So I've been looking at a lot of roasting pans, and this particular one is one of the only I've found that is a fully clad roasting pan that is induction friendly. And most other roasting pans that you're going to find on the market are just not going to be fully clad in general. That's kind of a rarity on that. So this is definitely a high-end roasting pan, but it's really generous. This is a really large piece, so you can fit a full prime rib in here. You can fit large turkey, no problem, and you can use it with and without the rack. And then you can still, being induction friendly, whatever your cooktop is, you'll be able to reduce the pan juices or make a sauce and things like that. So I really like this roasting pan. It's a nice piece. Another nice little thing I'm adding in is the oil sprayer. This is something I found to be really helpful when I want to do air frying or anything that's going in the toaster and stuff like that, to just be able to spritz oil and get a nice fine mist of actual olive oil as opposed to using some kind of cooking spray. As far as some of the tools, the standard set is going to come standard with the steel port carbon steel knives, so I don't give the option there as far as whether it's going to be stainless or the carbon steel. I'm also including some other additional knives in the stainless range that come with the steel ports. So I'm adding the Miyabi Birchwood utility knife and their Nikiri. I really love the Birchwood series. I think it's kind of the best bang for your buck in Miyabi. It's a gorgeous knife with the Damascus steel and this natural birchwood handle that will develop a age and patina as you kind of oil it over time. It just kind of gets very burled and looks really gorgeous. And then I like their Nikiri because it's got this is kind of a vegetable knife for chopping and things, but it's got a bit more of a point to it than most of them, which gives you a little bit more capability when you're actually trying to cut like garlic or fine items. So I really appreciate that tip, which is why their style and even their utility knife is a really generous size. That's basically almost a petite chef's knife. A couple other random things I've got added in the kit. So I already have the Jonathan's handmade spoodle. This is their kind of spatula and spoon all in one with the little lazy rim, which is really nice for holding onto the side of a pot. And then I'm adding in their spoon in the standard set. So the spoon's, the more standard kind of style. I like having them both. Also adding in for measuring and things like that. If you're doing baking ware and stuff, having a nice 18-inch ruler, really helpful. If you're laying out pasta and just need to do pie crust, things like that. So nice American-made 18-inch ruler. This is actually not the one that's going to be in the set, but I'll have a different one in there. And then a little 6-inch rule. And marking, you need to have, tape and a Sharpie. Super essential in the kitchen. You have leftovers, you're cooking things, you're prepping things. Being able to make a mark and put it in there, great. This is a nice little holder that's just kind of a plastic piece with command strips, so you can attach it to the side of a wall and then be able to have, a nice little tape dispenser. So one other addition to the standard kit that's not in the essentials is a kitchen torch. This is a piece that I really tend to find I use a lot. I really like this Burns-O-Matic, so it's a proper professional torch. So it sometimes can be overkill for certain things, but honestly, whenever I'm doing any kind of searing or bruleeing large amounts of anything, this is so much faster than having one of those little torches. Even when I'm just searing something like a steak in the pan, if there's just a part of it that's not quite rendered enough, I can just quickly hit it with the torch and be done. This is a nice one-touch activation with the lockout, so a really good easy torch, and you can dial it down too so it's not going a massive flame when you don't need it. But this is actually something I find myself using a lot, which is why I definitely keep it in the standard kit. Barware. So I don't have in the essential kit bar stuff, but I'm adding it into the standard kit because honestly, it has more uses than even just bar. You can use it for all kinds of mocktails or other things that you're using if you want to shake something up to get some volume to it. So I'm a big fan of a Boston shaker, which is going to give you two pieces. So you have two shakers, or it can be either of these along with a pint glass. They connect together, shake, gives you a really good piece, really easy to separate. And then you've got a jigger and bar spoon. just a fantastic essential kind of shaker set, but this is a really high quality one with the lattice finish. Really like this from Barfly. And then I'm also including a wine opener. This is a Pullman. This is one of their most special pieces. What's nice with this one is it's got a slide out for the knife, and then when you open it, it automatically retracts. So it's kind of a really neat style. It makes it really fast and easy to use. This is made in Spain, so it's a really high quality piece. A very special bottle opener for someone who really likes wine and stuff like that. This is basically, this is called a barkeeper's friend. This is the best version of it out there, kind of period, that I've found. And especially, being not made in China and having that spring out blade is really kind of a pleasure to use. One of the other pieces I'm including in the set is a large flat spatula. So this is going to be for grilling or smash burgers, or if you've got really large pieces, especially if you're using the cast iron skillet where you want to be able to get some leverage on things, pick up large items all at once. This one from Dexter is really nice, made in the US. It's got a pretty sharp edge to it, so you can really kind of scrape and get under if you're doing a smash burger or things that have a really firm texture on the bottom. The blue handle is their high heat handle, which means this won't melt. You can really use this for grilling and other things. So I really love this piece. It's a great addition into the rest of the spatulas that I include in the set. So I appreciate having that. And then last but not least is your spices. So, you can have the best cookware in the world, but if your ingredients aren't good, you're not going to get a great end product. And so Burlap and Barrel is a fantastic company I've come across this last year, that everything is single origin. So their spices, they actually have on them tasting notes of, hardwood smoke, ripe tomato. So they kind of give you a lot of information. They'll tell you exactly where it's from, and then they mark everything with batch numbers. So it really is a farm to table kind of a spice company, and they don't have every spice in the world because sometimes they can't get it at the quality that they're willing to sell it. So this set is going to change over time depending on what they happen to have, but I'm basically including 24 of the most basic staple spices that I can get from Burlap. You may need to add in a few others from time to time as you need stuff, and I don't have it in the set. But you've got a lot of the basics in here, the things that you're definitely going to need. So it's a really nice selection, a fantastic company of spices, and then you can always expand from there. So that's kind of the main big differences between the essentials and the standard kit. I really think the standard kit is, if you have the budget and you have the space for the larger pieces, I really think this is the one to get if you're going to buy it once. Buy once, cry once. I think this is, the best all-around set. But if you're someone who likes to cook and really wants to have something special and have more unique pieces, let me show you what the extras are that you're going to get in the Ultimate Kit in the next video right here.